I walked into that therapist's office holding my wife's hand, convinced we were there to fix something small, a communication issue, a rough patch. That's what I told myself.
We'd been married for 11 years. 11 years of shared meals, shared beds, shared silences that I mistook for comfort. I didn't know those silences were where she hid everything.
The therapist's name was Dr. Ellison. She was calm, measured, the kind of person who made you feel like the world could be understood if you just sat still long enough. She smiled at us both and said, "Why don't we start together, and then I'd like to speak with each of you individually."
I didn't think anything of it. That's what therapists do, right? They separate you to get the unfiltered version. I figured she'd ask me about my feelings. I'd stumble through some answer about wanting more quality time, and we'd move on. Claire went first. She was in there for 45 minutes. I sat in the waiting room scrolling through my phone, reading nothing, absorbing nothing. When she came out, her eyes were red, but she smiled at me. "Your turn," she said softly. I walked in and sat down. Dr. Ellison closed the door behind me. She didn't sit in her usual chair across the room. She pulled a chair closer. That should have been my first warning. "I want to be honest with you," she said. "In my 20 years of practice, I've learned that the kindest thing I can do is not let someone walk out of this room without the information they need to make real decisions about their life."
My stomach dropped. I remember the exact sensation. It was like stepping off a ledge you didn't see. "What do you mean?" I asked. She folded her hands. "Your wife didn't come here to save your marriage. She came here to get permission to end it, and she's been planning this for a long time." The room tilted. I gripped the arm of the chair like it was the only solid thing left in the world. "What are you talking about? She's the one who booked the appointment. She said she wanted us to work on things." Dr. Ellison nodded slowly. "She booked the appointment because she wanted a professional to help you understand what she's been unable to say. She wanted a witness, someone to catch you when she couldn't." "Catch me from what?" I whispered, and that's when she told me. Claire had been having an affair, not for weeks, not for months, for 3 years.
3 years. Our daughter's entire time in elementary school. Every parent-teacher night, every Sunday morning, every vacation where she smiled at me across a dinner table in some rented cabin, she was already gone. She'd left me 1,000 times and I never noticed once.
But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what Dr. Ellison said next. "There's something else you need to know. Claire has already consulted a divorce attorney. She has a timeline. She wanted me to prepare you because she was afraid of how you'd react." Afraid of how I'd react, like I was the danger, like I was the one who had done something wrong. I sat there in that beige room with the soft lighting and the box of tissues on the side table, and I felt something inside me just break. Not explode, break. Quietly, completely, like a bone cracking under skin where nobody can see it. I drove home in silence. Claire was already there. She was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea like it was any other Thursday. She looked up at me, and I could see it now, the pity in her eyes. She'd been pitying me for years. I just never knew what I was looking at. "We need to talk," she said. I almost laughed. We needed to talk? 3 years of lies, and now we needed to talk? I pulled out a chair and sat down across from her. "Then talk," I said. She took a breath. I never meant for it to happen. It started as a friendship. He understood parts of me that I couldn't explain to you, and I know that sounds like a cliché, but it's the truth. "The truth," I repeated. "You want to talk about truth. You used our therapist as a messenger? You couldn't even tell me yourself. You made a stranger do your dirty work and called it kindness." Her face crumpled. I was trying to protect you." "No," I said, and my voice was steady in a way that scared even me. "You were trying to protect yourself. You wanted a controlled environment so I couldn't scream, couldn't break things, couldn't make you feel like the villain. But you are the villain, Claire. In this story, you are."
She started crying. And here's the thing nobody tells you about betrayal. When the person who destroyed you cries, a part of you still wants to comfort them. 11 years of instinct doesn't vanish just because the truth does. I didn't comfort her. I sat there and I let her cry, and I felt nothing. That's not true. I felt everything, but I held it all in a place she would never reach again.
The next few weeks were a blur of logistics disguised as a life falling apart. She moved into the guest room. We told our daughter that Mommy and Daddy needed some space, using that careful language that children see right through, but accept because they have no choice.
I found out his name. I won't say it here. I looked him up online and stared at his face for 20 minutes, trying to understand what he had that I didn't. He looked ordinary. That was somehow the worst part. She didn't leave me for someone extraordinary. She left me for someone available. I went back to Dr. Ellison alone. I sat in that same chair, and I asked her, "Did you know this would destroy me?" She looked at me without flinching and said, "I knew the alternative would destroy you slower."
And she was right. That's what I couldn't accept for the longest time. She was right. The slow poison of a marriage built on someone else's lie would have hollowed me out year by year until there was nothing left to save. At least now the wound was clean.
The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday. I remember because it rained, and I thought how pathetically poetic that was. Claire got the house. I got our daughter on weekends and every other holiday. I got a one-bedroom apartment 14 minutes away, and a silence so loud it kept me awake for months. But here's what I learned, and I need you to hear this. The worst day of your life is not the day you find out. It's the last good day before you find out, because that's the day you were happy, and it was all a lie. Every day after the truth, at least the ground beneath you is real.
I started rebuilding. Not because I wanted to, because my daughter needed a father who was present, not a ghost haunting his own apartment. I went to therapy, real therapy, for myself, not to perform healing for someone else's exit strategy. I started running at 5 in the morning when the streets were empty and the world felt like it belonged only to me.
It's been 2 years now. Claire married him. I found out through my daughter, who mentioned it casually like children do, not understanding the weight of the words she was carrying. I smiled and told her I was happy for her mom, and the strangest part is, I almost meant it. Not because I'd forgiven Claire. I haven't. Maybe I never will. But because the version of me who walked into that therapist's office, the one who held his wife's hand and believed they were there to fix something small, that man needed to die so that I could live.
The therapist told me the truth, and the truth burned my life to the ground. But here I am, standing in the ashes, and I am more myself than I have been in over a decade. Some doors only open after everything else has been destroyed. And I will never again mistake silence for peace.